Hey, friends and family. My name is Jacob Stiefel, and this is my podcast, the Don't Stifle Me podcast. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. How's it going? How's life? How are you doing wherever you are listening right now in the world or out of the world? I don't know. Who knows where this is going? Now, this episode, like the ones before it, are sponsored by me. If you like what you hear, if you like what's going on, and you want to support us over here at Don't Stifle Me, well, the number one thing you can do is to, well, first subscribe yourself, but then also spread the word. Help, tell your friends and family about the podcast. Tell them they should subscribe or at least check it out. Give it a shot. Give me a shot over here. But beyond that, I do have music of my own on iTunes and other platforms, and also have tour dates of my own and merchandise all up at jacobstiefel.com. That's JACOBSTIEFEL.com. And all right, enough of that. Episode 11, and away we go.
Pick it up again.
Today's guest is the insanely talented and very awesome and fun to talk to, Will McFarlane. Will, on top of many other things, he played guitar for Bonnie Raitt for several years back in the 70s, and he was also been a session player on and off in the great Muscle Shoals, Alabama, since I think around 1980. We talk about all that. Had some great stories. We sat down in the Sam Phillips Suite at the Marriott Shoals Spa and Convention Center in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Will and I talked for a little bit about his life and in music and playing guitar and how everybody should have a passion. But you can hear all that. Here it is, my talk with Will McFarlane.
Yeah, originally it's hard to say. I'm a Texan by heritage, my parents, but I'm a Navy brat.
Okay.
So I went to a different school almost every year. And mostly between Texas and northern Florida. My dad was a carrier-based fighter pilot.
Okay.
But at 14, my dad became a test pilot for Grumman Aircraft and moved us to Long Island, New York.
Oh.
So I finished high school. And it was culture shock totally to me in every way.
Yeah. So what was your favorite of those places to live?
Honestly, I think, my 11, 12-year-old in Orange Park, Florida.
Yeah.
We lived right on Doctors Lake.
Oh, yeah.
And
what part of Florida is that?
It's northern. It's just south of Jacksonville.
Okay.
I actually lived on the Naval Air Station in Jacksonville for a year.
Yeah.
We found a house out in the country and grew up on 6 acres. That year and a half was like 6 acres and right on the water. And I was a water skier and it was just a great place to live.
When did you start playing music?
Actually, my stepmother started giving me piano lessons when I was 7. Before that, actually, all the little kids in Graham, Texas took voice lessons from this delightful young woman named Alwana. and so I took, little voice lessons when I was like 6 or whatever. I learned, Battle of New Orleans and Poison Ivy.
Nice. I think my mom enrolled me in vocal lessons when I was probably a little bit older than that. But I quit. I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah, I didn't last long there. The piano lessons, though, did get me.
Yeah.
But when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, that was it.
That was it?
I mean, I begged my dad. I wasn't allowed to watch TV on a school night, and it was technically a school night on Sunday night. But I just said, Dad, I got to see this band. I've got to. And, they kicked off, and I just was. And what's funny? My mom died when I was 5. So she was very, very musical.
Yeah.
Apparently she had perfect pitch. But my dad was, an engineer, fighter pilot.
Yeah.
Very sort of structured and academic. And so all through my life, I was, in bands in high school. 6 weeks after I saw the Beatles, we had a band together doing Beatles songs,
Nice.
And it just came to me. It was like, I remember sitting there watching them going, that's what I do. I mean, they were Star Trek to me. I mean, they were the Beatles. They were off the chart. Right. But yet somewhere in my little soul, I was going, well, that's what I do.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I want to do that. It was like recognition.
Yeah.
That there was something in my DNA that's what it
So
did.
were you playing the guitar yet at that point?
No, that's about when I started,
That's
about
when you
11
started, yeah.
and a half maybe. That was February 9th, 1964 when I saw the Beatles.
Yeah.
And I turned 12 in June of 64.
Very cool.
And we had a band, and we were playing junior high dances. I think probably the most ruined I ever got was they, handed us $20 at the end of a gig, and we all had $5 a piece. I went, "You give me money for this?"
Yeah. I get paid to do this?
Unbelievable. There was my first deception.
Yeah. So is that what kind of music the Beatles and
Yeah,
and rock
we
and
did
roll
also
stuff?
Needles and Pins and the Kinks. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what was. We did. You really got
rock and
me.
roll stuff, yeah.
I mean, it was.
So played like just in bands through
Yeah.
high school?
All through high school. That was 7th and 8th grade. I ended up in the same school. And then 9th grade, we moved to Gainesville, and Dad did a year at law school there. And I had a band playing junior high dances and battles of the bands and things.
So
like
when
that.
you were hopping around doing a new place,
I'd always link up with
you'd
the
have to
players.
just jump in and find.
Yes, which my father saw is the reason I would get. My grades would drop. He saw rock and roll as
Yeah.
the enemy of.
Did y'all
of a good
fight about
education.
that or anything?
Oh
Or-
yeah. It was like if I got a B in school, he'd threaten to take my guitar away and kick me
Oh,
out of
man.
bed. It was like very, very much a. But then again, at one point I said, "Dad, I got to upgrade," and he chipped in on a guitar.
Yeah.
At one point when I was 13, I just needed a new guitar. I had one of those little. It was like off-brand from Tiesco,
Yeah.
and a little Premier amp that probably had 4 watts and
Yeah.
twin 8s. It was two
Oh,
two
yeah.
8s, and we saw a Gibson guitar and amp, an ad for it in the local paper, and I begged them to take me out there. And we went out to this like poacher's cabin out in the like swamp.
Yeah.
And this guy had a white. It looks like an SG, a white SG with 3 gold humbuckers in it. But it said Les Paul Anniversary, and instead of having the gold bridge, it had this teak wood bridge with mother of pearl inlays in it.
Oh,
And I just saw one on eBay for like $35,000, but it was
Wow.
stolen my first year at college. But I bought it. Dad bought me it. I worked it off, but I bought that guitar and a Gibson Falcon amp for $150.
what?
Well, back in the day,
Yeah.
I've bought some great
Man.
guitars for very little money.
Yeah.
And so I used that all through high school. I had that white SG
Yeah.
through my Gibson Falcon. I actually sold the Falcon to a buddy of mine and bought a blackface Bassman, I think, in 1965. It's a 64 Bassman. I've had several of those.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's awesome. So, do you have any brothers or sisters?
I had a brother, and then after my mom died, Dad remarried. She had 3 kids, and they had a kid. So we had 6 kids. We had 3 steps, my brother and a half sister.
Yeah.
Who's my sister,
Pretty close with all them.
Yeah, well, actually, it was a little bit of a combative relationship. I was the oldest, and then my kid brother, and then there was a stepbrother, and he was just an angry young man. And it turns out it was because he was going deaf. He was deaf. I mean, there was just an anger issue there, and so that was tough. And then our parents divorced when I was 13, so I was only in that family for 6 years. And then Dad remarried 2 years later to another
so
woman
there
who had
was-
3 kids. So I've had 6
Again.
steps and a half and a real
Oh,
brother.
wow. So, when did you stay close with the people who had been your step?
Not really
Yeah,
at
like
first.
before.
I've regained them though over the
Yeah.
years. I've reached out. I call both my stepmothers on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
My ex stepmothers, I call them both on. But I love them both. They're awesome.
Yeah, they were part of your life.
Yeah,
so,
they're part of my life. That's exactly right.
So big influences would be clearly like what we talked about music-wise earlier, the Kinks and all the.
But
rock
you know,
and
it's
roll
interesting. I looked at the Beatles, and then you'd see like roll over Beethoven, and you'd see that it wasn't Lennon McCartney. It was like
Yeah.
C. Berry.
Yeah,
Like who's he?
this guy, yeah.
So you look up C. Berry and you hear Johnny Be Good, and all of a sudden you go, oh, and sort of write a passage at about 15 was probably to open Johnny Be Good,
So did you ever take guitar lessons? Or
Never
you
did.
just-
No. I just sort of, I hear intervallically, I guess. That was the gift. I don't have perfect pitch, but I have really good relative pitch. So, if something went bun, to a 3 flat 1, a 4 3 flat 1, 7 flat 6 5 5 flat,
Yeah.
I just sort of hear the intervals between each other. And as soon as you lock me in a key, I can tell where they're going.
That's awesome.
So the number system down here suits me great because
Right.
1 to a 1 over 3 to a 4 to a 2 5.
Yeah, that was
1.
definitely something that when I moved to Nashville 8 years ago, like I had no idea. I took guitar lessons growing up, but I started playing up there and see people like doing the
3,
symbols,
yeah,
3
4.
and 4, and I was like, what are they doing? Like, and so I had to sit down and figure all that out. But it makes things, I have engineering degree, so that made things a lot easier.
It does
I was
make
like,
things.
oh, that makes sense.
I remember one time I went to L.A. after I'd lived here for a session, and they had this 6-page L.A. chart with repeats, and I just listened to the song one time through, and as I listened to it through, I just made a number chart, a 1-page number chart, and everybody out there was sort of going, "Oh, look at this dude, man, this whatever." And then the singer said, actually the singer said, "Could we drop this a half step?" And all of a sudden, they're going back to their computers, they're rewriting and writing it, and I'm just looking at the same chart.
Okay.
And they got it. It's like they went, oh.
Yeah, for those that don't know, that because there are non-musician people, the number system is you can go through and corresponding numbers go with chords for, you can probably describe this better than I can.
If instead of going do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, if you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
So if you went 1, 6, 5, 7 flat, 6, 5, 3 flat, 1. You're going 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 5, 6, 5, 3, 1, and you just hear that like do re mi. It's like solfege singing or something.
Yeah. So if you made a chart for a song, that chart is just in numbers, not in not in notes or chords.
Right.
So if somebody wanted to change the key of a song, you could still play it because the chart is the same. It's just the numbers depending on the key.
So let's say we write Johnny Be Good in G.
Yeah.
It's usually an A, but let's say it's an A. And we go, say, hey, way 1, da 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 1, da 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 1, da 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 1, da 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 to a 4, da 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 to a 4, da, to a 1. And you can improvise over all those changes. But if they said, well, let's drop it down to G, well, then it's still 1, da da da.
Right.
It's just a G now.
Whereas if you were writing the chords, you'd have to write it.
You'd have to write it, and instead of A, now let's write a new chart with G on it.
So did you do any colleging?
Yes, I broke a multi-generational streak at the Naval Academy. My dad's Navy, uncle's Navy, grandfather Navy, great uncle's Navy.
Rock and roll rebel.
It was, I got out of high school in '69, and I just wasn't a soldier. And actually, when I did go to college, because I had real high math SATs, so I went to college for engineering. Mm-hmm. And you said you have an engineering degree. I got
civil engineering. Yeah,
it's like one of those things. And when I was 14, I took a math level 2 SAT and got like a 700 and something. So they sort of geared me towards. Yeah. And but I got out there, and it just, I told my dad, I'm wasting your money.
Yeah.
If I don't play music, I'm going to feel broken. I'm just going to feel like something's disconnected inside my soul. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, why don't you not do that?
Yeah. I had in my intro to engineering class, my first semester at Alabama, the professor said, I want to show y'all something. He said, I want everybody in here that plays a musical instrument to raise your hand. And over half, probably 3/4 of the class raised their hand. And he said, there's such a strong correlation between mathematic minds and music.
Isn't that
I
crazy?
think there's a lot of people that play music that aren't good at math, but I feel like the people that really understand the theory and like the numbers and stuff that we were discussing, it's math.
There's a lot of math. The difference in math and music is soul.
Yeah.
It's feel, it's touch. There are some people that do play like it's math.
Right.
Phrygian mode, 16th notes at 220.
Fast, more notes, less feeling.
That's right. And there are a few of those, but not in this town.
Right. Oh man, this is the place.
This is a great
we are
town.
In Muscle Shoals, by the way.
Yes.
A lot of these I do at my house in Nashville, but I was down here did a thing at Fame last night for the Muscle Shoals, the Music Row.
Cool.
Show. They're going to start doing it from Fame.
Oh, okay,
studio
that's cool.
Now. Yeah, it was really cool.
This town I get hired for what I leave out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody sort of knows something to do, but not everybody knows what not to do.
Not to play. Yeah, so I heard somebody say that to me a long time ago about playing music. It's not necessarily. It's not what you do. It's what you don't do.
It's many times.
So you decide not to do the college thing.
Yeah, I dropped out there, and that was early '70, and I hitched to L.A. I was not yet 18 years old. I graduated from high school.
But you knew, like, music is
I just had to.
Yeah.
I had to. I moved back to New York. Well, actually, it was taken back to New York after a few bad choices I made out there on the West Coast. And I moved on my 18th birthday. I moved into New York City. And we started just doing open mic nights at like Gertie's Folk City. And I always joke
solo stuff or band?
Well, I had a couple of high school bandmates. I had a lead guitar player and a bass player, and I was sort of the songwriter, guitar player. I played the guitar for 7 years before I ever took a solo.
Really?
Yeah, I just wasn't that guy. I love playing rhythm guitar. I love being in the band. I still do. I would call myself a rhythm
shocking,
guitar player.
and if you haven't watched Will play the guitar before, I highly recommend it because it's like watching Picasso paint or something. Like
You're kind.
It's awesome. I've been to see the fathers and sons thing that y'all do before. Used to do it. What was the bar you used to do it at?
DPs.
Yeah. I went several times with Scott to see y'all over there. It's like I watch you play, and I remember why I love, or like not that I forget, but that's why I love playing music, because the way you look like you feel is the way I feel when I play music.
That's awesome, man.
So back to New York and doing open mic stuff and
open mic stuff. That's funny. I always joke about it. It's like, I'd go home I didn't go home much.
Yeah.
But I'd go home and I felt like, I was the black sheep of the family, and I'd already gotten busted, for experimenting with, certain things. And you go home and my stepsister was getting her MBA at Harvard, and, my brother is MBA in architecture at Penn. And what are you doing? And I was like, well, I just did I did open mic night at Gertie's Folk City, It was like, it just sounded absurd, Hey, we might have a record deal, And same thing, we just woodshedded. A friend of mine's parents in upstate New York had a barn. Mm-hmm. So we all moved out there. I mean, this is like, 1970, and lived in the barn and just tried to make a demo. And this was before there was sound on sound. You had to get it right the first time. We just had a little reel to reel. Yeah, like background vocals, solos, everything, Yeah. So we made a demo finally, up there on the top of that barn, and we were on our way to New York City to pitch it. And we got busted again, just one of those. It was probably speeding, but it was long hair, long-haired people.
Hippies.
Smiling on a cloudy day, And so, we ended up getting busted at that point, and that broke that band up a little.
So is it, go into it, whatever detail you do or don't want to go into.
I actually,
weed?
But there was more than that in the car. Yeah, it was just me. Actually, I had a joint in my shirt pocket really a casual female friend of mine had handed me that said, "Good luck in New York, love Roxanne," on the joint.
On the joint? That's a cool.
Yeah, so he pulls the cop pins my arms back and pulls that out of the pocket. He goes, "Oh, how sweet," and throws us in jail. And but we got out. It was illegal search and seizure, so we got off on a technicality.
Yeah, because they just saw you and
saw us and busted us, and my dad was a lawyer at that point, and so that was sort of cool to get bailed out there. I was out on probation, I guess, for 2 years, and in that course was just woodshedding. I was just trying to get good at that point, and I was living with my band in this house, like a farmhouse, that had beads for doors. It was like a classic.
Had you started playing solos at that point?
I was. The people that blew me away were like the opening of Rainy Night in Georgia, Cornell Dupree and Reggie Young, that kind of, and Jesse Ed Davis. Freshman weekend at University of Denver, they brought Taj Mahal in with Jesse Ed Davis on guitar, and he just was so simple and so perfect.
I was tasty.
That was the one that I realized I didn't have to be Hendrix or Clapton. I could go,
Yeah.
And as soon as I found that, it all came out of the rhythm. I'd go, and it sort of became a rhythm lead thing. And just loved that kind of rhythm lead thing that Cornell did. I love the intros to things that Cropper did, Soul Man and Time Is Tight and things like that. And Hip Hugger. And so I just became, and the meters then, Leo Nocentelli, that check, that slow, lazy type of rhythm stuff. And I just realized that I listened to the hi-hat, even when I moved here and started playing with the rhythm section, just having Roger Hawkins hi-hat in my headphones was all I really needed. Because that's all anybody really actually needs to be a good rhythm guitar player is have Roger in your headphones. But you know what I mean? Just sort of lock into that.
And
you just lope with your right hand, and it's very lazy, and that's what I liked. I liked that kind of soul rhythm guitar playing.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you get from that to the Bonnie thing? Was that soon around that time?
The band, we kept looking for good towns to play. Yeah. And we were never like pop. We never did anything. We did a lot of originals, and then probably everything else might be categorized as B-sides or obscure, you know. And we moved down to D.C. from from upstate New York where the barn was. And it was cool. We lived there for a year, and that was great. I mean, I saw Roy Buchanan play dozens of times.
Yeah.
We played the same club he did, and I just sit there and watch him. And being a telly player, it's like, if you don't absorb some of that, you're missing a taste bud,
Yeah, pick it up, yeah.
And so that was a great year. But we moved up to Boston. And there was just a great club scene up there in 72, 3, 4, 5. And so I was playing clubs, had a killer little, just a little band that people came out and saw.
Yeah.
And Bonnie's manager, Dick Waterman, who I highly admire. He lives in Mississippi, in Oxford, and just one of the most knowledgeable. It's not just music. I mean, he went and found Sun House, though. And
Bonnie Raitt, for people jumping in right now and just listening. Bonnie Raitt that Will played for Bonnie Raitt for how long?
Over 5 years.
Yeah.
It was a good time in my life.
Awesome. So the manager
And he started showing up at my gigs. He was a real eccentric kind of a guy, wear like leather vests. He had a Fu Manchu. He'd smoke Brazilian rum-soaked cigars.
Yeah.
He wore like Clint Eastwood kind of, cowboy. He has like flat brim.
Mid-70s?
This would be 73.
Yeah.
Started showing up. And one night he just showed up with Bonnie. Because it turns out Bonnie had just been traveling with her bass player, Freebo, and they'd go out on the road with Orleans or Little Feat or Butterfield or whatever, and they'd open the show acoustically.
There's so many awesome people.
Oh, I know. It was what a great way to learn,
Oh, yeah.
But they'd come out, maybe do her last song or whatever.
Yeah.
But she felt that she was going to open for Jackson Browne on the Late for the Sky tour. She felt she needed her own band, and Dick thought I'd be a good fit. So he just brought her to the Sky. 22 years old,
thanks,
playing
Dick.
rhythm guitar. Thanks. And she jumped up and said, introduce me. And we had a beer at the bar. And a few weeks later, they called me and flew me to L.A. And I woodshed it on every record they had. He gave me a set list. Not one song actually was on the set list at the time. Bonnie had just decided to do all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah.
But I just learned everything. So the first rehearsal at her house was like, she was like, well, we already know this stuff, And so but nobody was really super nice to me for the first couple of days because, I mean, they were nice, but that's what Bonnie had done it before, apparently, like, invite meet a clarinet player at the bar and go, come on out on Give It Up, and the guy would suck. And so, here she had all these options in LA and pulled some 22-year-old kid out of a bar, from Cambridge. And but I gained him, and now we're life friends, everybody in that organization.
So you're still close with
just life friends.
That's awesome. So did you move? I guess you moved at that point to LA?
I stayed in Cambridge because she would start all her East Coast tours from Cambridge. Actually, I flew to LA and we did the Late for the Sky tour. Then the next tour I did, she started in rehearsed in Boston. So she flew to Boston, so I didn't have to move there yet. Yeah. It was great because she loved Boston. Went to Radcliffe for a little while. And that's where a lot of her early stuff was. She's huge in Boston. And we'd do a tour. She had the greatest routing because everybody loved her so much. You could do Portland, Boston, New Haven, New York, Philadelphia, D.C., Richmond, take a day off. And where everybody else is going, Houston, New York, Cincinnati, Miami, L.A., throw a dart at the map. But our tours were just mystically well routed. And of course, she was super popular in Boston. So now when I got off the road with Bonnie, my local bands just blew up. I mean,
so you were still playing.
Yeah, I was. I'd get off the road with Bonnie and rejoin my local band in Boston and just have a great time. And then go back out on the road. And actually, I sublet an apartment in New York in 1975 because my buddy Paul Siegel there, who had the drum collective, said, you got to see these session guys play at this club. And it was Cornell Dupree, and we already loved him. Yeah. Steve Gadd and Richard T. and Gordon Edwards. And Sanborn started sitting in and Eric Gale, and it became stuff. But before it was they were just session guys doing this bar. Just playing like Boogie on Reggae Woman and My Girl and just soul heads instrumentally. And it was school to me. I sat in front of Cornell Dupree. Me to you, like here just watching. Just absorbing. And so whenever I was home off the road with Bonnie that year in 75, and we probably did 150 cities that year. I don't remember. Yeah. But whenever I was home, I was sitting at Cornell's feet.
Just watching, learning. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was great.
What What were you, I don't know, some of your favorite places that y'all played, or favorite show? Anything pop out?
Well,
Any
of course,
cool memories?
I mean, we played Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
And we played Madison Square Gardens and did Saturday Night Live, which I really screwed up that night. But nonetheless.
Would you get off notes or something?
Well, it was just Saturday Night Live's crazy,
Yeah.
You get there Thursday, and then Friday's an all-day thing, and you're learning. And then Saturday, they do a full run-through in front of a live audience. Then they kick that audience out, bring in another audience, and do a full dress run-through.
Huh.
And then they kick that audience out.
and then bring in
and then go live.
The performances
then
too?
go live. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Full.
So this is third time, and I've been nailing it, but in between run-throughs, I might have been hanging out with Belushi and Aykroyd, and I might have
partaken.
And I walked back out there and realized I hadn't reset this third time. I'm like out there for the third time, unprofessionally, sort of mellow.
How old were you at that point? Like mid-20s?
Oh, that would have been 25 maybe. Yeah. And so I look at my amp and I go, oh my God. And I go to readjust the tone and go, Vank. And the guy looks at me like, we're live, like, we're live. And so somewhere, if you see that show, you'll hear right before Bonnie goes on, you hear, Frank, this random guitar chord. And then for some reason, I just froze. It was terrible. And when my solo came, it was just like, Cinnamon Girl. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's awesome. But I got stuck.
So you were with her?
74 to 80.
Yeah.
And but we played, Wolf Trap in Japan, and we played this Hammersmith Odeon in England. And backstage, it was like, the... Mayall and Alexis Kerner and Elton John, and Elton John came and sat in with us Central Park once. Oh. That was a funny story too, because when he pulled up, he said in his Rolling Stone interview that Home Plate was his favorite album of the year of 1975, and we'd all done it. And so here's our gig, and he'd let it be known that he was in New York too, and he'd love to sit in with us, just sit in and just be the piano player for a couple of. And so when he shows up, all of a sudden they call the cops and all the backstage, and they have to line up, and it's like this gauntlet of New York's best. And this limo pulls up, and this guy gets out. He's dressed in a Dodger, like a baby blue Dodgers warm-up suit. And he's got the Dodger hat on, but there's like bling all over. He's got his glasses on. There's like diamonds across the top of his glasses. All this bling,
70s
oversized.
Elton John.
70s Elton John in a baby blue. And I was standing there right next to the stage, next to one of New York's finest.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he just looks over at me and goes, "This guy with the Dodgers?"
So he didn't know.
He didn't know who they were like creating the gauntlet for, so he didn't get his clothes, pulled off or whatever. Is this guy with the Dodgers? That was just, but I just amazing, just the hang. It was such rare air. We did shows with Little Feat. I sat in with Little Feat like dozens of times.
Man,
as a matter of fact, when Lowell passed, Billy called me and actually said, "Lowell always liked you. Would you be part of the house band for his memorial?" So I actually, we played the Forum Tower of Power horn section. We backed up Jackson and Bonnie and Nicolette Larson and
for the
Linda Ronstadt.
Man,
yeah, that was that's rare air.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's just rare air.
Yeah, to be in that
at 24 years old, 25 years old. Or, hey, it was rare air when Muddy Waters opened, or John Lee Hooker, or Buddy Guy. It was just amazing being in Bonnie's band. And I think that it was the greatest apprenticeship to come to Muscle Shoals and be able to play.
So did you go from Bonnie's to Muscle Shoals?
Basically did, yeah.
What brought on the
Muscle Shoals connection?
What leaving Bonnie?
Well, it was one of those things. We'd all gotten a little toxic at the end of the the 70s, and I was just fried. I was burnt out. I was probably partaking way too much.
Yeah. Were you married at this point?
Yes, I was married. I met Janet up in Maine while I was on the road with Bonnie. Mm-hmm. She was introduced to me by a very mutual friend. She'd gone up with some band she really liked this local band called the Outer Space Band up there, and her brother lived up there, and she wanted to see her brother. Her brother was sick. The band's gig was canceled. And he said, "Well, I know somebody in Bonnie's band. Maybe he can get us in." And thankfully, it was a gym. So, when somebody shows up, 8 people show up at the backstage door for comps,
Yeah.
But it was a gym, so it worked out, and I got them all in, and I just looked at her, and it was like, I asked her to marry me on about the 10th date.
Yeah.
And we've been married almost 41 years. in the music business. That's pretty good.
41 years.
Yeah. It'll be 41 next
My mic's
month.
falling down, people, if you hear something right now. I've got this microphone clipped to a chair. Sometimes things happen, Will McFarlane.
Oh man, there's always a technical. As long as there's screws, they're gonna loosen at one point.
Married for 41 years. That is
so,
a feat that few people accomplish.
And we had twins a year after we were married, and so I have boy-girl twins that are almost 40 years old.
Oh, okay.
And actually, my oldest son is one of the finer musicians in this town. Plays great bass. You've seen us.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure.
He's a real good player. My youngest son's a real good guitar player, and Jamie's twin sister is a wonderful singer.
Yeah.
And so they're all musical. It's in the blood.
Yeah, for sure. So how did your wife handle the being on the road so much?
Not so well. If you really want to be truthful, I mean, she didn't see it. And plus the fact there were a couple of real heartaches at the time. You asked me about my family earlier. My kid brother was murdered in a senseless murder in Boston, just hanging out with some friends, moving a friend's apartment. A couple of tough guys came around the corner. Hey, you're in our neighborhood. Hey, we'll be out of here in 10 minutes. A gun came out and just shot him in the heart, 3 times. I identified his body in the morgue, and it was like CSI, except it's not TV anymore.
Yeah.
It's like he just snapped. Something to me went, whoa. Nothing's going to hurt like that. You just the terrible irony of making those kind of judgments when you go defensive like that is that you end up rejecting the people you love the most.
Yeah.
And that was my wife and kids. And I just sort of I just dropped into this state of resignation, and I stopped investing emotionally for years. I just was out on the road a lot, and she just saw that as just the end of our relationship. And I met Jimmy Johnson in a hotel room in Hollywood. I was introduced to him.
Yeah, like just a party hanging out?
No, it wasn't a party. There was a guy managing the Amazing Rhythm Aces, and they were cutting down here. And Duncan Cameron I'd met several times out in L.A., and we'd meet at the Troubadour and hang out. And so he introduced me to their manager, and he heard some of my songs and started pitching deals with me, out in L.A.
Like for
my artist
project, yeah.
I wanted to be an artist when I was young. Obviously, I wanted to stand out there and rock them, but once you have kids, like I realized, I didn't have 5 years to live on brown rice and pancakes, and I had babies, and I wasn't going to be, go out and do 240 shows a year,
get your name out.
Yeah. And so Muscle Shoals actually was a perfect fit for me because I met Jimmy, played him some stuff. He said, man, I love it. Actually, his first thing, I played him one song. He goes, well, play me something I don't like. I said, oh, let's see if I can work on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they flew me down here and demoed my stuff and signed me to their publishing company. And I flew back to L.A. and the first traffic jam I was in. I mean, look at that. Look at the window. You know what I mean? I looked out at the Tennessee River. I wasn't in a traffic jam for 3 days. I went back to L.A. and it was in a parking lot on the 405. And I went, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And I gave everybody notice and just moved to Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
So
that was was that the first time I guess you'd probably been in Alabama before in your travels.
Yeah, but we played Tuscaloosa with Bonnie, played Birmingham with Bonnie, but it wasn't like a place I knew about Muscle Shoals. The Bealtitudes record was one of my first Wake Up in the Morning, 1972. Yeah. That was our morning album,
Yeah, put that on.
Just put it on first thing in the morning. We loved Rogers playing. We loved everybody, David, Jimmy.
Yeah, so
Barry.
So even at that time, getting to come here and play for you was probably...
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I mean, the first demo I did, I go into the studio, and it's Roger Hawkins, David Hood. He brought in Duncan to play with me, have a second guitar. Mac McAnally played acoustic, and he had Clayton...
Clayton, that's such an all-star just room of people.
I know. He had Clayton Ivey on organ and Randy McCormick on whirly.
It's like It's like you try and record something that doesn't sound good.
Yeah. I mean, we would have definitely had to work on sucking that day. We'd have had to try it. Had to have tried a lot harder to suck. I mean, and so I'm listening to my headphones, and it's just it felt like
all the stuff.
Wow, I'm in Muscle Shoals.
Yeah,
and that was the deal. I flew back to L.A. and I was getting good gigs in L.A. I played on several of the tracks on the Urban Cowboy soundtrack.
Oh, really?
And,
Which ones?
Darlin' and Don't It Make You Want to Dance.
Yeah.
Cotton Eye Joe.
Want to dance?
Yeah, I'm the opening like. Oh
yeah, that's awesome.
And so I was doing sessions and But I was not a 335 guy out there, you know, with the Larry Carltons and Jay Graydon and all those guys are great. Lee Rittenmeyer. I mean, they're Star Trek to me theoretically, but I was a guy they'd call when they couldn't find James Burton, maybe, you know, because I had a Telly and a Strat and.
Yeah,
and
it sounds like you needed to be in Muscle Shoals.
I needed to be in Muscle Shoals.
Yeah,
that's
and
exactly.
So you've been
right.
here ever since.
Yeah, we were here 20 years, and actually, it really slowed down, and nothing was happening. I had an offer in North Carolina and went up there for years. We moved out of town here, but I've been back 6 years. We were here 20. I was gone 10. We're back 6.
Okay. And so what do you got going on now? Like, do you still do session stuff now?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate. You know, people see the documentary and they think, well, instead of going to Nashville or to New York or whatever, let's go to Muscle Shoals. And let's get the old guys. Let's get David Hood. Let's get Spooner.
So do most of those guys still play and session stuff?
And they'll call me first most of the time, and I appreciate that because I'll get with the artist, I'll chart, and I'll grease the wheels for I'll floor manage it. You know, I'll know what the artist wants. I'll know so that David and Spooner or Clayton can just waltz on in and look at the chart, and they're generally pretty.
So what's
close.
some of the stuff you played on in Muscle Shoals? Like,
some of my favorite stuff, I'll tell you.
I know there's 4,967 songs.
I still think
albums that you played on.
Well, not quite that many, but I mean, all that's R&B. Bobby Bland, Little Milton, Johnny Taylor, Dorothy Moore. All that was great, but Etta James, working for Jerry Wexler, for an Etta James record, that was
so awesome. You played on, it's not bad.
That was great. And then
how was she? What was she like?
She was awesome.
Yeah,
and I mean, her voice is so huge in the headphones. And then not only that, she would. He brought in Steve Winwood to do 2 duets with her.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't believe, I'm listening to these voices that I've heard since I was 14 years old.
And I'm playing music with them.
And I'm in the headphones with them. And I'm doing it. Yeah, that was awesome. Working with Steve Winwood, listen to his voice.
Yeah.
And then we cut 3 tracks with Levon Helm.
Oh.
I sang on his first solo album here, and then I cut 3 tracks with him for another artist, and then he wanted to overdub. He wanted some leakage and it sound front porch, back porch. So Levon and I sat down in 2 stools, live mic, and he's playing mandolin, and he said, "Here, play this." It was a gift to him for his birthday from Donald Fagen. Levon and Donald Fagen have a thing, They have good friendship. And so he gives me this dobro steel body guitar, and I'm playing bottleneck, and it'd be like he'd start to roll the track and leave on and go, I don't know, I'll take the intro, you take the first verse, and then it's every man for himself. It'd be like that.
Yeah.
And so for 2.5 hours, we just stood, and a lot of down, there's a lot of hurry up and wait in the studio, so we might get that, and they go, okay, just wait a minute, guys, we're going to bring up.
So you just sit there and talk with Levon Helm? Just sit there and
talk with Levon Helm. That was like.
Was he cool?
He was
regular guy?
It was obvious he was just enjoyed talking, enjoyed playing, enjoyed my playing. You're doing a good job there, son,
Yeah, it's so cool when you do things with people like that you've, heard for so long, and then it really makes you realize that we're all just people. They're just like you, and just like me. They're just...
And music. It's the reason I'm sitting here talking to you is because music.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here, if I were whatever, laying concrete
garbage
out
man
here.
or something. Yeah.
You never know. There's some talented garbage men, but in Muscle Shoals, I think everybody plays something.
Right, yeah. I'm sure if they don't, they could.
Yeah, they probably. But it's amazing. Donnie and I were sitting. One of my first conversations with Donnie Fritz was we were just in an interesting environment. We were looking out over the Gulf or something on some gig they had us both on, and he just said, "Isn't this amazing what music is? Look at our view right now.
Yeah.
Realize we wouldn't have done it.
What you're getting to do. Yeah.
And so I'm a very, very thankful man. I'm very thankful they still want the old guys on their tracks. There's some great young players, but as I said, I think sometimes the old guys know what not to do.
Yeah, for sure. The feel is it's real. So yeah, who else? Who else? I know you got some more in your bucket there.
Yeah,
you've played with
or
recorded for.
One of the people that I really
some of your favorites,
really enjoyed playing for was we did a Hall of Fame banquet, and played with Tammy Wynette a couple of times.
Yeah.
And just you hear these iconic voices. My gosh. And she'd come over and go, hey, total pro. I actually, when she died, I cried. And I hardly knew her. I played with her maybe 3 times. But every time was
Just
amazing. And Waylon.
Yeah.
We did a Donnie Fritz benefit here when he was really sick and raised money. And all his friends, and his friends were like Christopherson and Leroy Parnell.
Yeah, so did you, I'm sure you saw it, that little documentary they did on Donnie Fritz.
Oh, wasn't that great?
It was so good. Yeah. They said there was a clip in there where Christopherson, I think it was Christopherson, said there was a year where he and Donnie were on the road together. And I want to say, if it wasn't every day, it was over 300 days, like 300-something days, where he and Donnie spent every day together. Like, you can't get any closer with somebody.
No, that is close. And so when, Chris was there, and there was something that happened within the course of that show that was amazing. I wonder how many people have had. First of all, I was standing next to Reggie Young on guitar, who's my idol, ultimate mentor, really. He is just a major influence on the way I
would imagine
play.
the moments, how many moments you've had where you're like, like how many people you've gotten to play with or play for that you have that moment, like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Then,
when Ryan Cooder'd walk out, or Lowell George, or but
and then the next week it happens again, and then
but so we're backing up Christopherson, and it was his section of the show, and he does, take the ribbons from your hair, and we did shake them loose, and let them fall. And nobody knew Waylon had a stroke. So he was going to be on the show, but he didn't show, and nobody knew he was going to make it. Well, somewhere about halfway through the show, he walks out. We all see, the audience can't see, but we all see Waylon sitting. And you can start to feel that, this is going to be good. And we don't know if he wants to play. We don't know if he's there.
Like he's on the side stage.
He's side stage, sort of in the dark. He's got those oversized Elvis glasses on, like with gold sidebars with holes in them, He's got the flat hat. He's got one of those Western, it looks like sort of a polyester suit with arrowhead pockets. He's got he totally looks at boots. Yeah. Just looks killer, man. And we also look over and we see Waylon, and he finishes, help me make it through the night. And Waylon walks out on stage with his cane. He's got a cane.
Yeah. So what year-ish was this?
It's maybe 20 years ago. I don't know. Maybe not 18 years ago. 99.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
And Waylon walks out on stage, and when the audience, gets hip to what's happening, there's a couple of thousand people there, and they just... Yeah. And he sits down in a stool and goes, hand me that guitar over there. And Gary Nicholson, I guess, handed him some old 56 Telly, and he goes, I don't know why I ever gave this away, and we all laughed, and he goes... don't let the cane fool you. I can still kick ass.
Nice.
And then goes, take the ribbons from your... And back to back. I played Help Me Make It Through the Night back to back with Christopherson and then Waylon. How about that?
So was he just doing that just to...
I think he just did it to do it his way. Yeah. Okay, you did it. You like that? Here's my way.
Here's my way.
I guess, I don't know. But it was perfect. It was back to back. And so that was just a very musical moment. I've really enjoyed that. I've enjoyed getting tested every now and then. I've started to do some scoring. Oh yeah, which I really appreciate. I work with a studio up in North Carolina that does,
like, for movies and stuff.
Well, I haven't gotten to movies yet. Actually, I did. Phil Driscoll's movie. I went and scored a lot of that. Worked with Phil, and we just spontaneously scored a lot of it as the film ran. Yeah. But there'd be a 20-minute special on the Sonoran Desert for Discovery Channel. Mm-hmm. And they'd bring me in and they'd show the deadly scorpion, and it would show
do something about it.
And I go, burn down, I just thought spaghetti Western, I got locked into this sort of Sergio Leone kind of scoring. Mm-hmm. And it worked really well. Get every now and then show a sidewinder, a snake or something like that, and I just get a bottleneck out and go, so now I listen to shows on TV a lot just to listen to the score.
See what's happening in the background.
There's some great ones, great slide playing on The Closer, and Boston Legal. I go back and listen to I'll watch old episodes of those because whoever was doing it, and I looked him up once. I can't remember his name right now, but whoever he was, did some great slide stuff and just cool, soulful little 20-second.
Yeah. So do the TV shows or whatever buy the 20-second clip or whatever?
Yeah, or a lot of it was for reality TV. I did like stuff for John and Kate plus 8. You know, like I've never seen the show, but they're breaking up a campsite or something like that.
So just say, this is what's going on.
I need 30 seconds of breaking up a campsite.
Yeah.
You know, and I just start
something. Yeah.
Does this work for you? You know, just off the top of my head kind of stuff. And then I'll go back, maybe put a slide on it and just build these tracks. And then we register them with ASCAP, and I get a little bit of mailbox money when they reshow. You know, they're in syndication now.
Yeah.
Every now and then I get like $287. You know, and I go, baby,
all right, let's go eat.
Let's go eat. You know.
So you're still doing the fathers and sons thing?
We still do every Tuesday night. You know, I love being in the studio. It's honestly I think it's where I can hear my subtleties and hear my touch, and you know, I really enjoy that process. But if I didn't play live, you know, and I love doing it with Kelvin Holly. Kelvin and I have a very special interaction.
Yeah.
A lot of jam bands, you know, they sort of just back up the guy. Like one guy steps forward and the band backs him up, then he steps back into the pack and another guy steps forward and he goes somewhere. Kelvin and I start to provoke one another face to face. There's no competition at all. It's just we start to listen and we start to have this little conversation.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's very much a conversation because you're both very different guitar players, but you're both great, and it's like you're just talking to each other with your guitars.
It's what happens.
Yeah.
We went to different schools together. He came out of it with a lot stronger, like really gut bucket blues bass, and I probably came out with maybe a little more linear technique, you know, or something. And it feeds. We both love the same things. We just approach them differently. And so sometimes he's an on the one guy, like a right there, and I'm an and of one guy.
Yeah, the in
so
between,
we tend to boom, and by the end of it, we joke and call it woodly, because by the end of these solos, we're going woodly, you know. It's just more energy than content. But if I didn't have that in my life, I don't think I'd be as happy. I think it changes my body chemistry to play live and to experiment a little. And anytime I get a new piece of equipment, I take it out there and see what it does. And, ooh, this is atmosphere.
Well, it's awesome as a younger kind of like player to watch that and see people that still love it and still do it, and it make. I mean, you just look so happy, and that's my favorite thing to hear from people when I play is when I get done, somebody says, "Man, I can tell you really enjoy what you're doing." Like,
I hear that all the time, and I apparently can't be objective while I'm up there. I don't notice, but I notice the next day now at my age, like my thighs might get a little sore because I realized what was I doing? I was doing like a deep knee bend or something, like, you know, I was like doing a Chuck Berry, you know, chicken walk or duck walk or something, you know, and don't realize it. The next day I'll go, oh, I must have had a good time last night, you know, and I sing along with everything I play, you know, so sometimes I even blow my throat out.
Oh, yeah?
Kelvin really finds it so funny. He's like, actually, I was on tape doing a solo, and Kelvin behind me just turned on his video, and I'm playing a wah-wah solo. And I don't realize it because my amp's in the other room. I'm in headphones, and he's got me in this solo, and I'm going, and it's just... terribly embarrassing if you want to know, but it just 5 seconds into it, we're crying, laughing, you know. So he's caught me, you know, and I just am into it, you know. I love to play. I don't whine. Nobody wants to hear a musician whine anyway.
Right.
I think they all secretly wish they weren't in their cubicle. They were out there playing music, you know. And so if you whine, they're like, get over it, you know.
Right.
So it never does any good. You might as well just enjoy your
many people don't find so many, like, maybe most people, but I don't know. A lot of people don't find what makes them happy like that, like their passion. My dad told me that one time. I was talking about somebody hating their job or something and not doing anything about it, and he was like, "Well, son, not everybody knows their passion like you do. Not everybody has found that, and I wish everybody would find it."
I do too.
Yeah.
I always ask kids, like a lot of times they'd bring me into schools and talk or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times somebody come up to me and I go, what's your favorite part of the school? And they're recess, you know, or whatever, you know. But I go, no, really, what do you like? if you could really. And it's always something that they've been steered away from, almost always.
Like
you
an
know,
in-between thing
somebody
or something.
wishes they could be a poet, but they know they've got to, you know, take IT classes so they can get a job when they graduate. You know, but if money weren't an object or weren't a priority at all, if it was just you said to be happy, what would it be? It's amazing how often people say, you know, I want to make jewelry or be a poet or be a musician or
something,
or
create
skydive or, you know, just something that
they craft beer or you know, something, whatever.
That they may never do because they get a business degree. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, thank goodness for business people.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, really.
And there's some people that feel about business and accounting the way you and I feel about playing guitar.
That's exactly. People love numbers. And I just realized that, you know, if you do what you love, you know, it just really works for you, you know, and people ought to take a chance. And certainly at some point in their life, at least save money up enough to disappear for a week and try something that you've always wanted to try.
If I tried, I could not think of a better way to end this than what you just said right then.
Well, you know, I just really, I appreciate that. I realize that I'm thankful that not everybody has a musical gift. Because we need people to enjoy music,
Absolutely.
to feel it. You know, if everybody went for it.
If everybody did it, it wouldn't be a special thing that other people could enjoy.
It is a gift. And as long as you think of it as a gift, you'll be thankful.
Yeah,
you know, because that's the way it is. And I just really encourage folks to find out what it is that makes you tick.
Awesome. Will, thanks for talking, man. I'm going to get you to record some guitar picking here in a second that we'll bury.
Awesome. You got a guitar in here?
I do.
Okay.
Well, thanks for talking, man. I appreciate it.
It's great, man. Thanks for asking me.
How about the stories that Will McFarlane has? Man, and still killing it at recording session work there in Muscle Shoals. He does his weekly gig every Tuesday night at the Flobama Music Hall in Florence, Alabama. It's called Fathers and Sons. You should go check him out if you're ever in Northwest Alabama and on a Tuesday night looking for something to do. You never know. But I'll have that info and more info and links to some of videos of Will playing guitar. You can find all that on the show notes page over at don'tstifleme.com/011. It's episode 11. We've done 11 of these. How about that? If you're wondering, by the way, the episode that Will was talking about on Saturday Night Live that they were on was season 3, episode 10 from 1978, and it is fantastic. You should go check it out on Hulu or whatever you have. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this episode. You know, another one hath come and gone. I hope you're enjoying Will playing in the background here, noodling around. If you have any questions or any feedback, you can shoot those over to me, Jacob at don'tstifleme.com, or any of the social medias. The podcast social medias are at DSM Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Mine are all at Jacob Stifle on anything that's out there. I'm out there. I'm on it. So just look me up. Music and my music and merchandise and tour dates, it's all over at jacobstiefel.com if you want to check that out. Either way, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. If you've listened this long in these episodes, you're a fantastic person, and I love you. Now, go be nice to somebody today, whether you want to or not. Smile, be happy, have a great week. We'll talk to you later.
Is that odd?